Lily sat by the window, watching the world pass by, feeling disconnected from the life unfolding outside. She had always followed the rules, studied hard, climbed the corporate ladder, and on paper, her life seemed perfect. Yet inside something felt missing. She wasn't truly living. She was just existing, stuck in a cycle of pleasing others and chasing goals that weren't hers. As she pondered her situation, a thought struck her. When did I stop living for myself? She had built a life everyone would be proud of, but it didn't fulfill her. The pressure to meet others' expectations had overshadowed her own desires, and now she felt lost. Lily thought back to the conversations with her parents, who had always pushed her toward the same goal: a prestigious job, financial stability, a successful career. They wanted the best for her, but their version of happiness didn't resonate with her. She hadn't done anything for herself in years, always seeking external validation instead of listening to her own desires. That evening, she visited her grandmother, hoping for some clarity. The comforting scent of cinnamon and lavender filled the air as Lily stepped into her grandmother's home. Her grandmother, in her late 80s, sat by the fire, knitting. "You're at a crossroads, Lily," her grandmother said, pouring them both tea. "You're doing what's expected of you, but you're not living your truth." Lily was startled. Her grandmother continued, "When I was your age, I faced the same dilemma. Everyone told me what I should do, but I chose to follow my heart. It wasn't the easy road, but it changed my life." Lily had always admired her grandmother's independence, but never realized how she had achieved it. "I don't know what my heart is telling me anymore," Lily confessed. "I feel like I'm just following a path others have set for me." Her grandmother smiled gently. "You must listen to your own voice. The world will always try to tell you who you should be. But true peace comes from living authentically." Her grandmother's words sparked a fire in Lily. For the first time, she felt the possibility of choosing her own path, despite the fear of disappointing her family. Over the next few days, Lily reflected on her life. She remembered the joy she once found in painting with her grandmother and walking through the woods. These simple moments had brought her peace, but she had buried them under the weight of others' expectations. It wasn't easy, but Lily slowly began to make changes. She took weekends off to pursue her passions, painting again and volunteering at a local shelter. The more she immersed herself in these activities, the more alive she felt. Each day, Lily became closer to the person she had always been, the person she had pushed aside for the sake of others. The more she followed her own path, the more fulfilled she became. She had been walking through life with blinders on, and now she was free to see the world for what it truly was, full of possibilities. The road ahead wasn't clear, but Lily had taken the first step toward living authentically. That was all she needed to begin her journey. One evening, as the sky dimmed and the fire crackled in the hearth, Lily sat with her grandmother in the cozy, familiar living room. The scent of cinnamon filled the air as her grandmother, with silver hair and a calm demeanor, knitted in silence. There was something about her, a quiet confidence and peace that Lily couldn't quite place. Her grandmother set her knitting aside and looked at Lily with soft, knowing eyes. "When I was your age, I had everything to prove," she began, her voice steady but emotional. "Everyone told me what I should do, settle down, marry, and live like everyone else. But I couldn't do that. I didn't want to." Lily listened closely as her grandmother continued. "I didn't care about society's rules. I loved painting, traveling, and discovering new places. But it wasn't easy. People called me selfish, said I was wasting my life. But I didn't care. I had to live for myself, for what mattered to me, even if it meant walking a different path." Lily was surprised. She had always seen her grandmother as someone who simply did what she wanted. Now she understood that her grandmother's life had been one of struggle and self-discovery, not just following the easy road. Despite the pain of choosing a different path, her grandmother had never wavered, following her heart even when it wasn't the easiest choice. Her grandmother's words lingered in the room. Lily felt a stirring inside her, an awakening. She had spent years striving for external validation, following the well-trodden path of education, a career, and societal expectations. But for what? To fit in? To win approval? She realized that in doing so, she had lost touch with her own desires. Lily's heart grew heavy as she thought about all the dreams she had buried under the weight of others' expectations. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. I had to live for myself, for what mattered to me. Lily had chased after things others told her would make her happy: success, money, approval, but they had never been enough. She had everything others said would fulfill her, but in the process, she lost herself. The realization hit her like a light turning on. True fulfillment wasn't about following what others deemed success. It was about listening to her inner voice, aligning her actions with her passions and desires. It wasn't about fitting into a mold. It was about creating her own. A wave of relief washed over Lily, as though a weight she didn't know she was carrying had been lifted. The future didn't seem as daunting anymore. She didn't have to follow a set path just because others expected it. She could forge her own way based on what felt true to her heart. She looked up at her grandmother, who smiled knowingly. Lily realized her grandmother hadn't just shared a story, but had given her the key to her transformation. Now it was up to Lily to decide whether she would continue living by others' expectations or listen to her own voice and live authentically. For the first time in a long time, Lily felt a spark of hope. It was time to start listening to herself. The days after Lily's conversation with her grandmother passed in a blur. She couldn't stop thinking about the choice she now faced: to keep living the life everyone expected of her, or to pursue something truer to herself. Her parents had always been proud of her career, her job, her success, her stability. But Lily wasn't proud of it anymore. It wasn't her dream, it was theirs. Her parents wanted her life to be secure, with a stable job, financial stability, and recognition. This version of happiness, built on clear goals and achievements, didn't align with Lily's desires. The thought of leaving behind the security of what she had worked for terrified her. Could she walk away from their dream for her? Could she live with the guilt of not following the path they set for her? Fear paralyzed her at the thought of making a change. What if pursuing her passions led to failure? What if everyone saw it as a mistake, as reckless or selfish? The weight of these thoughts overwhelmed her. Lily spent sleepless nights, torn between continuing her current life or making a change. The comfort of her routine was suffocating. She was trapped in a cycle of success that wasn't hers, and the longer she stayed, the more she felt like she was losing herself. But deep inside, there was a quiet longing she could no longer ignore, a hunger to change. She knew she had to start small. The first step wasn't easy, but she began carving out time for herself. One Saturday, she took the morning off to paint, something she had loved but hadn't done in years. As she sat before the canvas, she felt a stir within her, a reconnection to herself. She painted for hours, losing track of time, without any pressure to be perfect. The fear faded, replaced by peace and clarity. This was what she had been missing: creating for the sake of creation, without worrying about approval. The next weekend, she tried writing, another passion she had pushed aside. Writing short stories, the words flowed easily, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of freedom. Writing became an escape, a way to tap into the parts of herself she had stifled for years. With each creative outlet she explored, Lily found more joy. The fear remained but no longer dominated her. Slowly, a flicker of hope began to grow, a belief that she could build a life aligned with her passions. Though she didn't have all the answers or the courage to quit her job yet, Lily knew she couldn't keep living as she had. The idea of a new path, one that felt more real, felt like a distant dream, but it was one she could no longer ignore. Each small step, painting, writing, helping others, helped build her courage. She knew it wouldn't be easy. She would face the fear of disappointing her family, stepping into the unknown, and the possibility of failure. But for the first time, she was willing to try. She was ready to trust herself, listen to her inner voice, and embrace the possibility of something more, something real. Lily woke up one morning with a sense of clarity she had never felt before. The doubts that once clouded her mind had lifted. For the first time, she felt she was living for herself, not for others. It was both frightening and exhilarating, like stepping into a new life. Though fear still lingered in the back of her mind, it no longer controlled her. She had spent months exploring what made her happy, painting, writing, and helping others, and had started reconnecting with the parts of herself she had buried for so long. It wasn't about the perfect career or external validation anymore. It was about finding fulfillment in the small moments, in what truly set her soul on fire. One day, while volunteering at a local shelter, an idea struck her. She noticed many people around her struggling with their own fears and doubts, much like she had. They were seeking guidance, a way to break free from the pressures that kept them stuck. Lily realized that what had helped her most was connecting with others who understood, and she could do the same for them. She decided to start a community group, a space for people to share their struggles, dreams, and aspirations without judgment. It wasn't about telling them what to do. It was about empowering them to listen to their own voices, just as she had learned to do. The first few meetings were small, with just a handful of people who, like Lily, felt the need to make a change. They gathered in a cozy room at the library, sharing their stories. They were a mix of ages, but all shared one common feeling. They were lost and disconnected from their true selves. As Lily listened, she recognized so much of herself in them. She felt their struggles, but also their potential. They had dreams, passions buried under years of conditioning, just waiting to be awakened. As the group grew, so did Lily's sense of purpose. She hadn't expected to become a leader, but in these moments, she felt she was exactly where she was meant to be. She wasn't guiding others by giving answers. She was creating a space for them to explore their desires and learn from each other. Each breakthrough, each moment of clarity, filled Lily with pride, knowing she was making a difference. One evening, Sarah, a quiet member, shared how she had spent years in a job she hated, living to meet her parents' expectations. She had always wanted to open a bakery but was scared of failing. Then Sarah smiled and said, "I'm scared, but I'm ready to try. I want to live for myself." The room erupted in applause, and Lily's heart swelled with pride. Sarah had taken the first step toward living authentically, and it was a beautiful thing to witness. Lily's journey had been challenging, but it had led her to a place of clarity and purpose. She had embraced who she truly was, and by doing so helped others do the same. She had become a guide, not by providing answers, but by creating a space for others to find their own. Each meeting, each breakthrough reminded her of how far she'd come. She was no longer living for others, but for herself. She was helping others break free from societal pressures, and that was more fulfilling than any career or societal expectation she had once chased. She had found her true calling. Lily sat on the balcony, watching the sun set over the city. For the first time in a long while, she felt at peace. The noise of the world faded into the background, and a quiet contentment filled her. Her life, once full of confusion and uncertainty, had transformed into something fulfilling. She had come so far, further than she had ever imagined. For years, Lily chased external success, measuring herself by the standards set by others, her parents, friends, and society. But no matter how many promotions or accolades she earned, it never felt enough. The real shift came when she realized success wasn't about pleasing others. True success, she learned, came from living authentically, listening to her inner voice, and embracing who she truly was. Looking back, she saw the moments that changed everything: her grandmother's wisdom, the small steps toward rediscovering her passions, and the courage to leave behind a life that wasn't hers. Those steps had been hard, filled with fear, doubt, and second-guessing, but each day she grew stronger, more confident, and sure of the path she had chosen. Lily no longer sought validation from others. She let go of the need for approval, and with that, she found the freedom to pursue what truly mattered. Her work with the community group brought fulfillment, not because of recognition, but because it aligned with her heart. She helped others find their way, empowering them to live authentically, just as she had learned to do. She guided them, not by giving answers, but by creating a space for them to discover their own truths. Her relationships transformed too. She no longer feared judgment or misunderstanding. She stopped people-pleasing and built deeper, meaningful connections with people who accepted her for who she was, not who they wanted her to be. These relationships were grounded in honesty, mutual respect, and a commitment to authenticity. Lily knew her journey wasn't finished. She would always be evolving, always learning. But for the first time, she felt aligned with herself. She had stopped running from who she was and embraced it. There was a quiet joy in living a life true to her heart, filling her with peace she had never experienced before. As she looked at the horizon, she thought about the message she wanted to share. Live for yourself, not others. True fulfillment doesn't come from external achievements or approval. It comes from living authentically. Success isn't measured by promotions or awards, but by the peace you feel when you're true to yourself. Lily's story reminded others that it's never too late to change, to step off a path set by others, and begin walking your own. She knew the fear of disappointing others, but she also knew the reward was worth the risk. The future was hers to shape, and she was finally living the life she had always dreamed of.